This video is a follow-up to a previous video, which was on expectations and negativity. And the idea in that video was that if you set the bar too high, you're often going to get frustrated and you're often going to have a lot of negativity associated with that. And that might be directed at yourself, like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I reach this thing that I'm supposed to be able to reach? Why can't I do what I'm supposed to be able to do? Or that might go towards others, like what's wrong with the system, what's wrong with the other people, why am I not getting what I deserve? Why can't I do why can't I get what I'm supposed to be able to get? Like there must be something wrong with the system. So if you set your expectations really high, you're often going to have a lot of frustration, and you're also often not going to feel as happy when you reach them, because if you can reach the thing that you feel like you're supposed to be able to reach, then it's often more of a relief that you made it and less of an accomplishment. And if you can't reach what you're supposed to be able to reach, then a lot of times that's just a disappointment because you're supposed to be able to do it. And then if you, on the other hand, set it as a tough goal rather than as something that you're like supposed to be able to do, then if you can do it, it feels like an accomplishment. And if you can't do it, then that's kind of normal because, like, the goal was pretty tough to begin with. So, if you can not set your expectations too high, then you can avoid some of that negativity associated with it. Now, this video is, on the other hand, about drive that's related to expectations. So, expectations are often a source of motivation, and if you don't set high expectations, a lot of times you have like no reason to try that hard. So, for example, when people play against me in a game that I'm really good at, um, if the person playing doesn't really expect to have any chance to beat me, a lot of times they won't try very seriously and they'll find it hard to like keep trying because they don't expect to ever win, so there's no point. But on the other hand, if there's someone who like expects to be able to beat me, then a lot of times they'll keep trying and they'll play really seriously. And then as long as they keep thinking that maybe they can beat me, then they're gonna keep trying. And then they're gonna keep like taking it seriously because they think maybe they're gonna be able to win. And that expectation could be too high, like maybe they don't actually have a reasonable chance to win. Maybe they just aren't good enough. So it's not really going to happen unless they try for a really long time. But because they have that expectation there, a lot of times it gives them more motivation to just keep trying anyway. So sometimes just having that expectation, even if it might be too high, can be a source of drive and a source of motivation. And it can be a reason to keep going and keep trying and keep getting better. So I do think that still, when you set high expectations, there often is a lot of frustration or negativity associated with it. And you'll probably see that a lot of these, like, highly skilled people, like, if you're talking about games and, like, competitive gamers, you might think that because they're good at what they do, they should have a good mindset when they play. But a lot of them actually don't, and you'll see a lot of them who get really upset or they like get really mad. Some of them will like say bad things to their teammates. They'll go on a rant about the system or how the game is broken or how the game just keeps screwing them over with bad luck. Or you'll see them like do like throw a tantrum, like punch holes in walls, or they'll like break stuff, but they're actually still good at what they do. So like on the outside, you might think that, if you're good, you would have a good mindset, and sometimes that's just not actually the case. And I do think a lot of that comes from the expectations that these people have, so they kind of expect themselves to just do so good or always get a good result or always win, and so that leads to a lot of negativity, but that expectation also gives them the motivation to keep going and to keep trying and to try harder so they end up actually becoming good. So it's kind of there's kind of both sides to it. Now, I'm not saying that's guaranteed to happen, so I don't want people to take this as me saying that when you get good at something, you automatically become more toxic or more negative. It's not a guarantee to happen. So I think it happens more than people might expect, but it doesn't happen all the time at all. It's not like you're always going to be a toxic person if you get good at something. That's not the case either. And then I'm not I'm also not saying that it's always a bad thing. Like some amount of negativity is fine, and sometimes if you never got frustrated or upset at all, that would be a little bit strange. So it's not just like being negative is bad. That's that's not the case either. Now, it really is a tough balance in a lot of different ways. So there's internal versus external. Like, do you blame yourself for when you can't reach your goal? Like, if you lose, do you take it on yourself? Do you feel like it's your fault? You did a lot of things wrong. You should have done better, or stuff like that? Or do you blame external factors like the game screwed you over, the system's broken, your character isn't good enough, or whatever it is? Like, whatever it might be. Do you take it internally or blame other things? And both of them have their problems because if you take too much internally, a lot of times you're just going to make yourself feel really down and maybe feel depressed, and that's not good for your own mental health. But if you blame everything else, you're often going to be spreading negativity to things that may not even deserve it, or you're going to be at risk of like making other people feel bad or like hurting other people, and sometimes just making yourself look bad because you're like saying all these bad things about other things. So another difficult thing to balance is like, how do you set these high expectations and let them motivate you without having them frustrate yourself too much if you can't reach them? So that's tough to do because like if you don't set any expectations at all, then like I said, it's pretty hard to keep going because you feel like you're just not going to succeed or you're not going to get better. So it, you might not have any motivation, but if you set them too high, it's easy to get frustrated. So how do you balance it? And how much is too much? That's kind of what I was just saying as well. Like, how high can you set it? Do you set it really high so that you hopefully have a goal to go for and a reason to keep chasing it? Or do you like not want to set it too high because it might be too frustrating or too upsetting if you can't reach it? How do you balance that? And I don't necessarily have good answers for all of those, but the one thing I would say is that I think it's best if you believe in your effort. So if you set a high expectation because you're going to put the effort in, so you put that level of expectation based on the level of effort that you're ready to put into something. And if you're going to work hard at it, then you can set a really high expectation because you're going to work hard for it. So even if you sometimes can't reach it and you can't keep up all the time, because you're going to put the effort in, you're going to keep getting better, and you can kind of afford to set a really high goal in that case. But if you're not really thinking about the effort and you just want to win, you just want the results and you just think you deserve them, a lot of times that's where the frustration comes in because you feel like you deserve something. So if you don't get it, you're going to be frustrated, and then it's easy to blame something else for that if you can't get what you think you deserve. So I think it's best if you put that belief in your effort and set your expectation high when you're willing to put the effort in to actually get better at what you're doing. But it's all really complicated and it's none of it is actually really straightforward. So I have this one example here of sometimes a flawed expectation can be more motivating than knowing the actual truth. So if you're trying to get really good at something and you're actually close to the top, then a lot of times it'll feel like if you just do a little bit more, then you're going to be right there at the top. And sometimes that's not even actually the case, but it feels like that. So you might think if I just, play a few more times, put in a little bit more effort, I'm going to be at the top. So you do it, and then you don't actually make it. And then you try a little bit harder, you still don't make it. You keep trying, and you still don't make it, but you can see that you've made some actual improvement, but it's still not enough. But it feels like you're getting closer, and you are, so you keep going because it feels like it's right there, but you still don't make it. But you keep going, and then since you've put in so much effort already and you've gotten so much closer, that drives you to keep going, and then maybe eventually you actually do make it to the top. But if at the very beginning you knew it was going to take that much effort and you weren't actually as close as it looked like, maybe you would have never actually gone for it and you wouldn't actually make it because it feels like you don't actually want to put in that much effort to go for it. So sometimes, like, having a flawed expectation can actually be more helpful, even if it's too high, even if it's unreasonable. Sometimes that can give you the motivation you need to keep trying. And if you actually had the correct expectation, you might not even be motivated to try. So it's all very complicated, and it's hard to say, like, what's the best thing to do, what's the correct balance, and what's right and what's wrong. So there's like upsides and downsides to everything. So, like, expectations can cause negativity, but that doesn't mean they're just bad because they can cause motivation as well. So there's good and bad to it. And that's it for this video though. Thanks for watching.